this is how to felt a mask. So you're gonna need all these supplies and scissors. I forgot to add them, but that's an X-Acto knife. Yeah, first make sure your piece of felt is big enough to fit the mask. Okay, this is how I start. I basically just glue a tiny little piece and then put my felt over all the way and then smooth it down as best as I can just to make sure it's on there all the way. And I do it differently than a lot of people. I take big sections instead of gluing tiny sections. So after that first section, I kind of do the whole half of almost the whole mask and just the cheek and the nose area right before the nose and to the left. And then just smooth out like in the curve. That's the most important part. Make sure to stretch it as far as it will go and smooth it in the curve as much as you can. Then I move on to the nose and the bottom part of the nose and then just kind of do the same thing. You want to make sure you smooth out with your fingers as much as you can so there's no bumps. Smooth in the ridges, the very, very most, and you can stretch it the rest of the way to the edge. And next, I just do the other whole side of the mask. And, again, start in the little ridge, smoothing that down like I just did, and then smooth the rest of it, make sure it's stretched out and there's no bumps. Next, I do the nose bridge and also the eyebrow area, just kind of a line all the way across just to make sure there's no areas that I miss. And I start with smoothing out the nose bridge like I am with my thumbs, and then just kind of making sure it's over, and also getting the extra glue off the eye so it does not make a bump later. Next, I just kind of do as much of the forehead as I want to, because this part doesn't really matter as much. I smooth out the inside of the ears. This is super important to get the inside of the ears as much as you can, and then also the forehead. So yeah, inside of the ears and the forehead, most important part. And then I just finish off outside of the ears, inside of the ears, and the forehead. And just keep smoothing. This next part, you're just gonna wanna cut little slits every maybe a few inches, doesn't really matter where, but just kind of follow along where I'm cutting and make sure to make one where the string is so that you don't have to glue over it. And just make one on the sides of the forehead, and usually I do one on the point of the ears, but it doesn't really matter where you do them as long as you're able to fold in. Oh, and also make sure to cut off any extra felt that you had while felting. Next, I just hot glue the pieces that I've cut to the mask, and I'm just trying to make sure that there's no excess, like, hanging over the mask. When I fold it in, I want to make sure I get everything. And just no loose pieces. I'm just trying to get, and make sure to do one, or leave a gap for the string. And just gluing down any little pieces that I see that are still loose. You can also cut them off if you want, but here I'm just gluing them. Just keep doing the same thing for the ear I usually do. One side of the point and the other side of the point, and that just makes it easier. And then just keep following your little pieces and keep gluing them down in the direction that they're going to avoid any extra pieces of felt or like gaps. Also, sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame here, but I think you guys get the idea. So as you can see, I've just glued down all the pieces in the direction that they're going, and then it's fine if they overlap with more pieces. Like the ears always have pieces overlapping because it's not a very large space to glue things onto. So again, leave a gap for the string, glue around it, and just keep gluing until you get all your pieces glued down and smooth. And remember, you can always come back later, and if there are extra flaps, you can just tear it off and re-glue, or that's what I'm doing right now. There was a little flap, so I tore it off and re-glued it to tighter, and that's about it. Next, you're going to need a X-Acto knife or anything. Mostly like an X-Acto knife will make this the easiest because it's sharp enough to cut. I just start cutting from one corner of the eye to the other corner, cut all the way across, and then I make a little X. So I do, one across and then one line in the middle going up and down. And this just allows me to be able to glue each individual corner of the eye, and it makes it more flat and able to go the direction that I want it to go. So there's no extra. So just put a little hot glue and stick your fingers through to bend it. Careful not to actually touch the glue, just barely press your fingers down. And I know it seems very extra fuzzy. This felt is very fuzzy, so later I'll go through and cut off all the extra fuzz that you see here. But yeah, so just glue one little corner. I usually start with the inside top, but you can really start with any one you want to. Yeah. Glue, stick your fingers through, and bend your fingers in the direction you want it to go. If there's a little extra, use the X-Acto knife again to cut it as far as it will go. Careful not to cut into the actual mask itself, though. And the bottom I usually do as one piece just because it's not as curved. If you have, like, custom eyes, you might want to do more pieces if they're shaped differently. But for these specific eyes, it's easy just to do that. And here I'm just gluing more sections of the felt that I might have missed, or taking off more fuzz. And there you go, you have a fully felted mask.